that time for that.
What are some examples of making the presentation engaging? Because I'm not super creative, and so like I'm not gonna, be a comedian up there or, draw stuff. So what did you guys do to make it engaging and interactive, if anything?
I mean, for the high school students, and I presented at a lot of Latino student conferences, so I would use a lot of the cultural jokes that would only be understood in that population, and also the energy, right? So if you're up there and you're kind of like, and you show that you're nervous and they perceive that, and they're kind of like, well, this person isn't very confident. But if you're up there and you're confident and you're presenting in a way where it's your body language is into it, then that also draws them into it. And I would say that that's probably the biggest indicator of how a presenter feels is by their body language. Also small group activities, or also at a high school conference I presented on admission, like it was, I forget what it was about, but there's this game kind of Mexican bingo, and so we used the cards for the Mexican bingo, but we had questions on them related to whatever we were presenting on, and that was a great way to get them engaged. They're like, oh, well, it's this and that, and everyone, like, people won prizes, and they were really, into it. So also, it has to do with the population that you're presenting to.
I would say, similar to what Claudia just said, small group activities, large group discussions. We had a video. We opened up our presentation with a couple questions that kind of sparked some conversation, as well as maybe like, I kind of brought people to get like a little bit more alerted. So yeah, we did a couple different things to keep it. And ours was a little bit shorter. Ours was 45 minutes plus 60 minutes of Q&A. So this was an hour long, but we had 45 minutes to actually present, and that went by so fast. Like we had such a huge itinerary or a huge like plan, and it was like done in like felt like 5 minutes. So it was quick, and we tried to do a little bit of different things to keep people engaged.
I would say along with that, I know I depended a lot just on my facilitation skills and asking follow-up questions and encouraging people to ask questions throughout, so it didn't feel like I was just kind of spouting information, but that it was really a dialogue between everyone, and that worked really well at ACPA because it was a relatively small group, so everyone was able to share their name and where they're from and their experience with grad school in this case, and it just kind of made the environment a little less like presenter audience dichotomy.
So my last question has to do with funding. Who helped you out? Did anyone help you out? How do you go about navigating that and asking for the funding? And as far as, I guess, like amounts to negotiate, what do you expect?
So the Graduate Student Council,
which is on your handout as a funding source.
Yes, we provide funding for up to $600 per conference, or $300 per person, $200 per person. That's $200 per person. And so that's one way of doing it. Another thing is that each dean of each college has a discretionary fund that they can utilize to support you in that presentation process. Our dean of the School of Education doesn't do that for us, but I know that the dean of the School of Nursing does. She provides so much funding for their students. Isaiah Crawford used to have a fund for presentations, but that fund is depleted, so it's no longer available. And then finally, the office of Durrell's office with integrity information has funding for up to $300 or $500 for people who are presenting. So you have to be presenting.
So you write a proposal for that?
That's online.
Okay.
Does that have to be directly relevant to integrity formation?
I think they asked a question of like, how do you demonstrate integrity, or there's some question about it, but it's not.
What does integrity formation mean to you?
Yeah,
The
something
topic
like
doesn't
that.
have to like be about it.
And be sure to follow everything it tells you, because if you don't provide them with your acceptance notification that you're presenting or whatnot, then they don't give you full funding.
Will the College of Nursing provide funding for?
The reason why I mentioned it is because you could be co-presenting with someone who is in the school, the College of Nursing, and you may be able to work through it. But it's also important to know that, because we can write letters to the dean and say, hey, you know, we know that some deans provide funding, here's our funding.
Make sure you get on that early too, because like NAFSA is always in May, and so when Katrina and I asked for money last year from Graduate Student Council, it ran out, so.
The other thing too, I've like NASPA has graduate student like scholarships if you're presenting. Most of the regional levels have it, the national levels have it. So there's a lot of ways, like in the organizations themselves, they want to support new graduate student presenters, or graduate students or new professionals, or they have financial assistance available. Most conferences do as well, where you can get something reduced, whether it's your registration fee or something. So look at the organizations you're presenting at too for
Did you
this.
say NASPA?
NASPA does. I got $500 from them from Region 5, and then they had a national pool just for graduate students to apply for. And you write like a blog entry or something for their blog, and then that's the way you get it. And I got $500 there too. So it's really, and a lot of people don't apply. So like the pools that I were in were really small. Like it's like 1 of 5 applicants for this thing. So it's a pretty good ratio if you actually take advantage of them. So.
The other thing is too, is that most conferences have student rates, so you're not paying that much anyways.
Any other burning questions?
General questions?
Your eyes look.
Yeah. Was there a time where after you drafted the proposal and turned it in that you wanted to tweak it or wish that like it changed, or I don't know, you thought there was a better way to, or something you wanted to add, or I don't know?
You can do that.
You can? Okay.
For most conferences, I know you can. I haven't done it.
Yeah, that's
Do you think that tweaking it and resubmitting it reflects poorly? Like, oh, you weren't prepared the first time you wrote it, or no?
Probably not, I guess, but.
And you may not even, I'm not sure, you may not even have to resubmit it, you might just be able to show it and be like, if things have changed a little bit, but I don't know what the policies are on that. I know that, I think it might be different for every organization, but I think that, yeah, you may not have to resubmit it.
I guess the reason why I asked that is because like, what if you want to make a change in the program, or who like are we in charge of writing that stuff in the program?
You provide, yeah, they use, so on the note application, on the proposal, it had a box that says like, please describe your conference, like the presentation that will be used in the program. So you like type out like, this presentation will focus on blah, blah, blah. And so yeah, that's what they use. I didn't have to create it, they just take it and put it in the book. Which I think that's how NASPA is, and I think that's how most of them are, so.
So this is kind of along the lines of technology and the room setup. Because Nick, I think you talked about how you had to send in your materials beforehand, but just for everybody, if you have materials to hand out, are you responsible for making sure that you have that printed out and ready at the conference, or do they do that for you? Okay. Okay. Now, is there places at the conferences to do that, or do you need to be bringing it with you?
Some conferences do have it, but
Okay.
most,
Depends.
yeah,
If I were you, I would just bring it with you.
yeah.
Because you never know. if
'Cause you
there
never
are
know.
Printer breaks or.
I think at the larger conferences like NASPA or SPA, you can probably find like
Yeah.
a Kinko's or something nearby, or like there's something probably nearby to use, but it's you never want to like just rely on that. So I would bring them with you.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you.